Welcome to KW Conversations, where we discuss the workforce and education issues that matter in the Louisville region. This show is brought to you by Kentuckiana Works, the region's workforce development board.
Walking to work, there's just no buses that come right there.
Yeah. For the employers, do any of these barriers surprise you, or were you aware of these, or any what do you think? How did this hit for you?
Say that one more time.
Just for the employers, I'm asking, hearing these barriers that you guys are bringing up, have you guys heard this before? Is it things that you're aware of? Or?
Well, I would just say the transportation, I don't want to say I'm glad to hear it, because I'm not glad to hear it, but I'm aware of that. So it's good to know that what I had identified as a problem, I guess, is really a problem. Now that means we need to find solutions to that, and we need to work against that, but unfortunately I've heard that one before.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think I can speak to this a little bit different because I worked at TARC for 20 years. So I'll say the first thing that I remember happening often was we would get, and we've seen this, infrastructure companies come into the east end of Louisville or very growing, new parts of town, and they would say, we're almost finished with our development and we're going to we have the capacity to hire 500 people, and you need to send a bus out here. Or the infrastructure for the bus was not already designed there. And with TARC specifically, it's a quasi-governmental organization. I know I'm getting in the weeds, but I want to give some background to employers to help them understand. The Federal Transit Administration requires them to have routes that are equitably distributed within the community that receives those funds. Right? So you can't just create a new route to support your workforce during a certain period of time unless you have that same offering across the distribution of the routes. And so I'll say the first response, Drew, would be, if you are in a position or capacity to say, we're an employee, we're creating jobs, think first about transportation as a barrier. And so I'm not surprised to hear that because I've had 20 years knowledge of how that happened often, right? And I'll also say that what Cash described to me is a soft skill that we don't value, right? You look at a resume, you look at a job description, it says ability to be on time, ability to have creative, all these different adjectives that describe how you should show up to work, but we don't value the fact that Cash had time management as a huge part of her ability to show up to work. She had to be dedicated to all of those things. And so sometimes for me as an employer, what I try to think about is the grit that it takes. I don't always want to hire the person that's an A student. I don't want you, because that means that you're committed to doing the work and doing it in a certain fashion. You might be good in a certain role, but I want the C student or the B student, who had to overcome a house fire. I want the student that had to overcome challenges within their family, challenges within their community, and they can say, I'm still showing up to work every day to do the work, because that means when it's all said and done, when the lights are out and the lights aren't on, you're going to be there. But we don't think about that. If I'm being honest and reconciling the realities that are existing there, a lot of the people are probably 20, 30 years the senior of some of the youth, and so we often forget what it was like. And frankly, some of the people who are making these decisions and hiring have so much privilege, they don't think about what it's like for people who have differences in the existence that they have when they try to get to work. So, for me, I would just encourage advocacy and agency. Tell me your name again in the jacket, the jean jacket. Patricia, that you don't have to just take what they give you, but I do think it's important for employers to recognize the value of what it takes to get to the workplace, and the other things that are compounding for young people. This is a hard world, and Cash didn't even hit on some other stuff that made me think about some triggers that I think are also hurting biases when we think about how people show up. I'm a 60-year-old woman who grew up in a very specific type of, the Bible Belt, and I see this woman come in here with a rainbow shirt on, or with, a Black Lives Matter shirt, and I'm like, well, I don't think this person's going to be good for this job, and my biases, already kick that person out of the role. There's a study that Harvard produced several years ago. It's been many years, but they said that our brains are processing millions of ideas every second, and we can only process 40 of those. So if we're processing all of those, we don't even have the capacity to recognize when we're being discriminatory to people.
Thanks for tuning in to KW Conversations. Visit KentuckianaWorks.org to find labor market data, resources for job seekers and employers, and much more.